My mother-in-law, and a couple of other people went on vacation to kayak for a swim. My mother-in-law, a master of sports, was a physically developed and strong woman. There was plenty of time, so I decided to learn how to sail the boat. My mother-in-law gladly agreed to help me. One day, leafing through the family album, I saw her photos of her youth. She was stunningly beautiful, with a figure that words cannot describe. I was amazed by her flat belly, slender legs, shapely arms, and firm breasts. I couldn't tear myself away from the photos, and could barely contain myself not to give away my admiration. Fortunately, my wife did not notice it. Now mother-in-law is fine too, although a bit swollen. I've always admired athletic women. I try to get to know everyone I meet, and I have a long list of victories. The only one I missed was my wife's mom. I asked her to teach me how to paddle a kayak, and we made an appointment. She brought the necessary gear and had me put on a life jacket. I obediently followed all her instructions. We got into the boat, and Tesha began teaching me how to row. She was very patient and attentive, and I quickly learned how to steer the kayak. We spent several hours on the river, floating and enjoying nature. I was very grateful to her for teaching me this new skill, and I was very happy to have met such a wonderful woman. I enjoyed working with her. She was a trainer, and trainers love to be obeyed. I obeyed all her commands like a faithful dog, and I avidly studied her movements. I took advantage of every minute I had with her. She didn't notice it, sitting opposite me in the kayak and showing me how to work the paddles, how to rake in the water and turn the kayak. I pretended that I wasn't thinking straight, just so she would stay with me longer. We had no other reason to meet. She was rarely in our house, and she had her own things to do. I watched how confidently Mama raked the oars and imagined what she could be in other struggles, not only sports. My imagination played out, and I sweated a little, and not only from the load. When we docked at the shore and started to get out of the kayak, I accidentally snagged on the side and collapsed right on top of it. I was confused by my slip, but managed to grab onto her. She supported me, preventing me from falling into the water. She only laughed at my awkwardness. That moment broke the awkward silence, and I was able to get out of the boat. I looked at mother-in-law, not believing that I had been able to touch her. Albeit not where I wanted it, but it felt good too. If I could, I would never let her go. But she didn't understand anything, just looked questioningly. "Why are you staring at me?" That day, we said goodbye, agreeing to go rafting on the river the next day. At night, I slept badly, thinking about how I could get her. My wife slept beside me, unaware of my thoughts. I thought about her for a long time, and soon I realized I was in love. I wanted to spend more time with her, to get to know her better. But I also realized that she wasn't free, and that she had a husband. I decided that I would just enjoy her company and not try to get more from her. We continued dating and rafting down the river. I still admired her beauty and grace, and I still dreamed of her. But I also realized that our connection couldn't last forever. Eventually, we both had to return to our normal lives. And then one day she told me that it was time for her to leave. I was saddened, but realized it was inevitable. We said goodbye, and I never saw her again. But the memory of her remains in my heart forever. I will never forget those happy days we spent together. What a strange situation has happened to my wife. She is not at all like her mother. You can't say it's her own daughter. I woke up, ate breakfast, packed my bag, put it on my shoulder, and walked out of the house. I walked, whistling. My mood was great, though there was a slight worry inside me. But I didn't pay attention to it. It didn't bother me. We gathered on the shore, put on our life jackets, and jumped into the kayak. Again, my mother-in-law took the seat in front of me and wouldn't let anyone else get in, even though there were those who wanted to. I looked at her angrily, and they left at once. We started rafting along the shore. Everything was going fine. I was admiring my mother-in-law instead of watching the paddles. I was looking at her back and at her confident movements. A wave of shivers ran through my body. I wanted so badly to break the barrier and hug her tightly. And here was my chance. Suddenly, the kayak flipped over and caught on a bow. We all fell into the water, but no one panicked because we had life jackets. Well, the shore wasn't far from us, only a 5-minute swim, so I ventured over to my mother-in-law and clung to her. She asked me if I knew how to swim. I replied that of course I could, but I hadn't swam in a long time and had lost my skills. Then she suggested I hold on to her, and we started paddling toward shore. I was so happy. Now I could grab onto anything. I hugged my mother-in-law, realizing that we didn't have much time and would soon make it to shore. The group we came in with was left behind. Eventually, it was just me and my mother-in-law left in the water. I was grabbing her so vigorously in various places that she started breathing heavily, and so did I. I tried not to be cheeky and prevent her from swimming, just touching her underwater. We stealthily swam to the shore and found ourselves in a thick thicket of reeds. And then it began. I did not even expect such a development of events, hoping for something less. My mother-in-law took off her vest, and I did the same. We went into a passionate animal excitement and pounced on each other. Of course, we were wet. All the grass stuck to our bodies, but the sensation was amazing and no one noticed us. Then we put our clothes back on, got ashore, and went looking for our friends. We cleaned up our kayak gear and got ready to go home. When I got home, I was wet to my underwear, but very cheerful and alert. My wife asked me if I had flipped over. I answered her that I had. I answered so cheerfully that she looked at me like I was an idiot. She asked me if I enjoyed swimming, and I sincerely replied that I did. I really enjoyed it and would repeat it every day. She started asking me questions about the details, and I started telling her. Then she started swearing about her mother, saying she was not ashamed to do such nonsense with men. I couldn't help myself and laughed. This caused a small argument between us. I realized she was jealous of her mother for me. Let her be jealous. It's not like I'm doing anything. As they say, I went into the shower to rinse off the river water. My wife went into the bathroom. Something she needed there always comes in without asking. Look, and my back scratched. I didn't notice it in the heat of passion. Who scratched you like that? Interested and points a finger at my back. I answered that I got caught on a snag when I jumped from the kayak into the water. What a strange snag you got, she began to lament. You probably have a mistress. What kind of mistress? There are only men in the group. My wife thought about it. It's true, there are no women in our group, except for my mom. She didn't think about her, of course. Mother-in-law was beyond suspicion. If my wife knew how wrong she was. But I made honest eyes at her, asking her to get out of the bathroom. The wife walked out unhappily. I looked in the mirror, twisted around, and sure enough, my entire back was humanized with fingernails. Long, deep stripes. You could tell a woman's hand had done the work. What a surprise! She's the one who gave her daughter the message. Well, he's a man on the prowl, your husband. But then why didn't she deny herself the pleasure? I don't understand anything about women. And I never will. Except for the fact that they're very devious. They can do such things. Why did my mother-in-law scratch me? I thought she couldn't handle herself out of passion. We had a lot of fun in the reeds. I'd like to do it again, but how? I thought I'd ask to join the group again, in case she doesn't refuse. Immediately, without putting things off in a long box, sent her a message on her phone. Is there an open spot in the group? My mother-in-law replied in a minute. There's always room for you. I fell off my chair with joy. Such trips on kayaks, my mother-in-law and I had been going on for a long time, which I was very happy about. After all, such passion could give me only a woman like mother-in-law. Her daughter is not like her mother, boring and like a board in bed.